These are the best load cell pedals I've used. I felt no difference at all between this and the hydraulic sets that I've used previously or the one I use at home. I feel very comfortable like this. Now you got like the 3 elastometers on there. So I know, once I got used to the car, I know the limits of how much I need to press, where my trail braking need to be before I enter the next stage of braking.
Nice. Yeah.
So I know like I'm not going too far on the brake as I'm hitting that second stage of braking. I can trail brake a lot better on it with that. Having like those 3 elastometers on there, I'm able to control the brake application a lot more with my muscle memory versus having to figure out motion-wise with my foot where the brake is at. So coming from hydraulics, I have a hydraulic set at home. I felt no difference between the load cell and hydraulics. I felt I was in fully control the whole entire time of the throw of the brakes. I think with the way you guys positioned how the load is spread out onto the elastometers, when I press the pedal, it gives me much more control over what's going on, and it feels very, very natural to me, like as if I'm actually pressing the brake on a real car. So yeah, I felt no difference at all between this and the hydraulic sets that I've used previously or the one I use at home. Because yeah, hydraulics you got to worry about. So after a while, I mean, it's made out of rubber seals. The rubber seals are going to deteriorate brake. You got to get those rebuilt and fixed. As with these, there's no fluids to mess with or having to rebleed the brakes or anything. I think this is like a really good design you guys went with to because it still feels like a very hydraulic pedal feel without all the necessary components that could fail in the future. For me, I'm blown away by it so far. I felt no play whatsoever with the brakes. Like I got my foot on it, I'm resting on it, and it's not registering anything. Side to side, I feel nothing. I really enjoy having the side foot plates.
Oh yeah. Rest your foot.
So I can rest my foot when I'm on the gas or I'm not like braking. I can rest it, and then I'm not worried about me sliding over and getting my foot caught under the brake pedal. Like I can move my foot around very comfortably to get into a position where I'm still comfortable, especially if I'm doing endurance stints. And because over time you're going to get leg cramps or some leg pains, where I can just readjust my positioning without having to worry about getting under the brake pedal or my foot coming off the gas pedal. So it really keeps it within a nice motion. I can move it around without losing control of where my foot is on the gas. I think people have the misconception of potentiometers are bad because of how they were used on brake pedals, where you have to rely on muscle memory, where versus on a clutch or the gas pedal, you're relying more on the travel of your foot. Like when you're applying the gas, you want to be able to press it quick, or be able to know, like when you're coming out of the corner, like you have to press it slowly to get back on the gas, and you don't have to worry about muscle memory on those two, on the clutch and the gas pedal. Whereas a load cell, you're more worried about how much pressure you're applying to the gas, when you just want to make sure you're actually getting the position of the pedal where you want it to be. And that's why we were talking about like the hypercars, sports cars, all use potentiometers in their on their gas pedal versus using a load cell or anything else, Hall sensors or anything like that. So I mean, if it's good for supercar, hypercar manufacturers use potentiometers, then it should be good enough for sim racing. Breaking it down, pedals to me, these are, I'll say like by far for me, these are the best load cell pedals I've used. Just by the build quality, I felt no flex at all in the pedals. Everything is is placed where you need it, where it needs to be placed, versus going for styling, which I appreciate. You guys went more for functionality and getting adjusting these pedals for the person themselves versus the person adjusting themselves to the pedals. Because selling before me, he was using a much harder brake, and to me that was a little too much. So when I asked you to swap it out, within 20 seconds he got it swapped out, and I was able to get into a brake pedal range where I was very comfortable with. And I don't think you can really do that with any other pedals that I've used, where you've got to bust out the tools, take everything off, put it back on, which I really appreciate. And the same thing, like when I felt like with you guys using like a bigger gas pedal plate, my foot was a lot more comfortable. If I needed to back off a little bit, I could still, even from the lowest setting, like I could still press the gas very, very good, versus like having the pedal plate up high. The brake felt very, very comfortable, very, very natural to me. Going into the Motion, I mean, we've had these conversations previously where people think, even companies to an extent, think more motion means more control and more understanding of what the car is doing, which I think that's more of a novelty, that's more of an amusement park trick. Whereas if you're at home, I think if you have too much motion, you're focusing too much it's distracting you, or you're focusing too much on making sure you're not getting thrown out of your seat, which I appreciate with you guys. You guys went more for, hey, we want to provide enough feedback to the user to where he knows what the car is going on. So anytime I went over the rumble strips, I felt it in the butt kickers. Anytime the car started slipping out a little bit under throttle, the traction kicked in to let me know, like, all right, you need to let off a little bit. Going to the corners, going left and right, that felt very naturally, as if I was in my car on the track, driving out there. Nothing felt too exaggerated. That was taking me away from focusing on my driving, versus focusing like, oh yeah, I'm getting thrown around my rig. There's the whole term of flying by the seat of your pants, or where most drivers, and I think sim racers don't experience it too much, but real race car drivers, they know what's going on with the car through their butt, more than what they feel through their steering wheel. So which makes sense why Stelling was a lot quicker, because he was using what was the vibrations, the motion that was traveling from his legs, his butt, to, his lower back. So that was translating more into letting him know what the car was actually doing on track, versus having to use a steering wheel that does everything for you and trying to having your brain decode that. And I'm blown away, because I mean, we met at the Sim Racing Expo 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, that's 17 or 18.
Right, and this is when you guys were first, you guys were still in the infancy of your company, where the first, like, you guys were like, hey, we want people to come in our rig and give us their feedback on it. And which I really appreciate from you guys is you want sim racers' feedbacks on how your rig behaves, and you take that and take it back to your engineers or developers, and like, hey, this is what our sim racer is saying. We need to make sure this is more natural, more this is what sim racers are asking. They want to feel a more natural motion in the rig, and you guys took that within strides and kept on improving on your equipment, your software. And the same thing with your pedals. Like, you made me fill out like a whole 10-page survey to include even like what kind of pedal plates should we, face plates should we use on our pedals? Should they be brushed, polished, or even carbon fiber? And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to enjoy these pedals. But no, just so like the extreme length you and the company went to make sure you're providing a piece of equipment for sim racers to enjoy and for them to be able to use at their home in whatever configuration they want, versus having them adapt to a certain product is very much appreciated. Kudos to you guys for going to those lengths, because I'm most companies are probably just, we think this is the best, and they move on into their products, but you guys are actually taking that feedback and applying it to your products for the masses to enjoy. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Every time I send this rig, The hardest part is me having to get out.
Yeah.